We've all heard it, that God qualifies the called and doesn't necessarily call the qualified. But do you really believe it? If you're listening, chances are you've made a few decisions that have led to some significant setbacks. It's crushing, isn't it? The worry that you've screwed it all up and there's no chance that God's bringing you back from this. But, that's a big but. There's that moment that you realize that setback was a setup for something beautiful and miraculous to happen. In so many moments of my life, I felt like it was one step forward and two steps back, and that includes my business. But I can sit here in confidence and tell you that for every time that it's been two steps back or I have fallen flat on my face, it's brought me to where I am today. Let me explain. So you see, in August of 2021, I left my VP role in an experiential marketing company in Tampa Bay to start my own business with $3,000 in the bank. And the goal was to start an impact-focused business development firm. Our first year in business, Queenly Consulting hit 6 figures without me even knowing it. And for someone who was a young professional, I hadn't hit 6 figures yet. So the fact that I did it by myself and in my own business was huge. This growth was anchored in 3 concepts. 1, a well-defined vision, mission, and goals. Number 2, a compelling message that resonated with my audience and drove conversions. 3, the development of strategic partners and a robust referral program. Let me begin with the amount of time and money that I have invested in sourcing learning opportunities for myself is a lot. I have a bachelor's in hospitality management. I have a master's in public relations. I've invested in marketing courses and sales courses. And from a time perspective, I have read a lot, from the classics to the new books. Think and Grow Rich blew my mind. But the reality is that I have spent a lot of time and money investing in myself, searching for something that already existed within me. Everything I've learned, especially in the last 3 years, has simply reinforced things that I knew deep down in the depths of my soul and what I know to be true about God. Nothing prepared me better for business than life. So 17 years ago, I was pregnant and I had to drop out of high school. A part of me thought that it was over. For a time period, I stepped out of my power, was in an incredibly abusive relationship. I remember being 18 years old and being told that I couldn't go to college because he was afraid that I would cheat on him. It was crazy. And eventually I came to my senses, but it took getting pregnant a second time and having the thoughts that I didn't want to live anymore for me to come to my senses. It was game over from there, and it was time to step back into my power, and there was no other option to succeed. I went to war for my future. And they say you have to win the battle before you win the war, and vision is the war. Succeed at all costs. I made a lot of mistakes, and a part of me wanted to prove everyone wrong. But that only takes you so far. At some point, you have to want it for you, and you have to stop allowing external forces beyond yourself to be what's driving you. Then we have mission. Those are the battles along the way, and they change in every season. College classes, breakups, many of these missions were driven by my financial state. Goals, those were the individual strategies I used to get me through each season, financial aid check to financial aid check. And so I remember when I would get these financial aid checks, I was a mom of 2, so of course I got the Pell Grant, but in order to make ends meet and still show up for my kids without, having to have them live at daycare, I took out student loans. And I remember I would get a fall check, a winter check, or a spring check, and a summer check. And the first thing I would do is I would pay rent for 5 months at a time. So I knew we always had a place to live. 2, I would take my kids shopping and I would buy them what I knew they would need for that season. Second, I would go to Hy-Vee, which was a local grocery store, and I would buy a gas card and I would budget $50 a week for gas because I knew I had to drive anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half back and forth a couple times a week to get to school. So we had a place to live, my kids were clothed, and I had gas to get where I needed to go when I needed to be there. And so that was how I lived for a really long time. But it was the vision, it was the mission, and it were the goals that got me through, and they were fitting for that season. And so those challenges, the failures, the heartbreaks, the brokenness, it all taught me the importance of aligning my actions with my dreams. Life, as we know, is never short of critics. Most often than not, we are our own worst critics. But every challenge was an opportunity bringing me closer to the person I knew that I could be. This perspective pulled me through the toughest months in my business. So it was December of 2021, then January, February, and March of 2022. My business was struggling. I was a baby business, just, a little bit over a year old. My husband was deployed, and I was more than $3,000 a month in the hole. Everything that I saved up for a rainy day for growth, it was depleted very, very quickly. I wanted to quit, but I didn't. It was having the vision that I knew the type of business that I wanted to have. I knew that in this season, my mission was to get through it. Whatever that looked like, I needed to get through it. And the goals were the strategies that I used along the way to get through that really hard season in business. And to be honest, it was also a really hard season in life. I wasn't a single mom. I was married, but my husband was in Kuwait. I was alone with these 3 kids, not wanting to disrupt whatever, sense of normalcy they could still have. I still wanted to do sports, cook dinner every night, do those types of things, but I also still wanted my business to succeed. So, April 2022, after sticking to the mission or sticking to the vision, following the mission, setting those goals, Queenly Consulting, we experienced our first 20K month. Can you believe it? Just 18 months after starting the business, we had hit 20K. And in this process of taking steps towards who I knew I could be in every season, I learned the importance of communication. We never stop becoming better communicators. And I think we can all agree that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So often we start our businesses and then we shift our focus externally, and things get really hard and confusing all at the same time. We look for the perfect landing pages, the best hook for social media post or an email subject line. Don't sell, you have to sell. Don't talk about yourself too much. Wait, you've got to tell your story. We make it really, really hard. But the reality is we walk through life crafting messages to convert others every day, converting others into lovers, friends, business associates, convincing our kids to do things that they don't want to do. We all want to know what to say to make someone do what we want them to do. And business is absolutely no different. In all aspects, clarity is kindness. Clarity does not equate to brutal honesty and bluntness, which so many people take pride in. We all have that friend that will say whatever is on their mind and then just say, oh, I'm just being honest. Like that makes it hurt any less, and timing is so important. Honesty turns to cruelty when you don't take the time to connect before you correct, and the timing and intention of your conversation are not taken into consideration. So if we can expand on it, it's not what you say, it's how you say it and when you say it that really matters. When it comes to communication, we have to remember that we are humans navigating life with other humans. You'll never lose by genuinely being interested in other people. And if you need to dive into that more, you should definitely read How to Win Friends and Influence People. It dives into all of this and really makes it very easy to understand. Being genuinely interested in someone else, listening before speaking, is one of the best practices that you can implement in your business. But intention of conversations, intention of actions, it all goes beyond just words. Not everyone who smiles at you has your best interest at heart. Business or personal, there will always be naysayers. I know we've all experienced this, but you'll have people that envy you and talk poorly to others in rooms that you're not in, or even worse, once you start to experience a little bit of success, they're going to try and ride the coattails of your success because you put in the work that they weren't willing to do. And you have to be careful of that. People will want to partner or collaborate in ways that are anything but strategic, or you'll feel like you're the only one putting in effort. You're going to send referrals, you're going to send, quick tips, emails, check in, and you'll start to realize that it isn't reciprocated. One of my really good friends, we've walked this business journey together for a while. He asked me, why as women are we so quick to cut one another out? And I think in situations where we've been talked poorly about, we've been gossiped about, people are mentioning our names in other rooms, and it's not the way we would want it to be mentioned, we're hurt and we start to get jaded. And we start to step back, and then we start to tell ourselves the story that all women are like that. And I think women do it far more than men do it. But what I need you to know today is that no amount of negative actions, no amount of negative experiences with friends, neighbors, strangers, whatever it may be, negates the need for community, especially if you are growing a business. 95% of Queenly Consulting success is thanks to strategic partners and referrals. We, hands down, are a referral-based business. It's collaborations over competition, and I truly believe even if we are in the same industry, there's enough food at the table for all of us to eat. Building this village for your business, for your family, whatever it may look like in this season, might mean that you need to reshuffle your inner circle and surround yourself with people who are going to uplift you. I can't stress enough how true it is when people say you are a reflection of the people that surround you. One of the places that I chose to plug in first was the Central Florida Christian Chamber. It's somewhere that I had explored when I was first starting out in my VP role with the experiential marketing company. And it was a safe place to fail, to feel the emotions in business that happen with growth. And they poured into me as a potential business owner at a very early stage when I was still working for a company. And the seed had been planted to own a business, but I wasn't quite ready to water it. And so when I plugged in to a professional organization after starting my business, I knew that's where I wanted to start first. And it goes beyond that because they showed up for me in business. They showed up for me when my mom died. They showed up for me when my mom died. And countless check-ins when my husband was deployed. So when the business was growing and it got really hard and life got really hard, I had a community that was absolutely my backbone. Okay, I'm done crying now. But you have to know that in this journey of growing your business, you can't do it on your own. Think about it. Even Jesus and the disciples, they were the first mastermind, even before it was presented by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. We can't do life alone. And so my community has been my backbone, supporting not just my business, the personal trials, and it's been more than business. There is a bond of growth there, mentally, physically, and spiritually, that can't be replicated when you're trying to grow on your own. And so why is this important? Among us, there are stories of hardship and of resilience. Yet so many of you listening continue to disqualify yourself from pursuing the God-sized dream in your heart. And it doesn't even have to be owning a business. Maybe it's owning a home. Maybe it's moving to a new state. Maybe it's going after that big promotion, or even shifting into a new industry that you may or may not know if your current skill set will translate well into. But I want you to think about the book of Esther, and Esther before she was queen. Esther was an orphaned young woman who was trafficked by the Persian queen and basically forced to sleep with him to see if he liked her or not. And apparently he liked her and he made her queen. But the reality, there's a whole lot of sin that's happening in there. She denied her Jewish faith and her true identity in Christ, but God still used her. And the reality is the book of Esther is the only book in the Bible where the name of God is never mentioned. But yet you see him working the whole time, and no one needs to even speak about it. And so I know you face challenges, and it might make that dream God placed in your heart seem so incredibly distant. And taking that first step towards that dream is absolutely terrifying. I know that feeling. Being a high school dropout, dealing with family rejections, not knowing if I would be able to make enough money to provide for my family when starting a business. And if you listen to episode 1 of the podcast, you are going to hear my living in a van down by the river story. And you'll understand kind of where that comes from. But here's the truth. Your life is a business you operate in every day. Think about it. If you're a mom, you have a child. Your vision is to raise a happy, healthy, kind human that can navigate life successfully, independently. As a mom, that's my ultimate vision for my children. The mission is getting through the stages. First, you have, the teething stage. Then you have the walking stage. You have the terrible twos. You have kindergarten. You have high school. You have those dreaded teen years and everything in between and everything after. Every season of life, that's a new mission. The goals are the strategies that you use to get you from mission to mission. Every experience, every scar, every missed opportunity has equipped you for that big dream nestled in your heart. You are so ready, and I need you to embrace it. Thank you for being here today with me on the Boss Too Hard podcast, where we dive deep into the turbulent waves of entrepreneurship. I want you to remember, success is not a destination, but a journey. If this has helped you in any way today, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and I will see you next week.